Good morning and welcome to the English language preview. My name's Harinder Ruppel. I'm going to take you through what the subject involves, how you're going to be assessed. If you've got any questions, please just type them into the chat bar. You will be anonymous, so that's fine. Don't worry about your name showing up, but I'll try and answer your questions at the end of the session. Right, English language, what's it all about? What do you study in English language? Students that take English language usually take it because they like English, but they don't want to read novels and drama and things like that. So that kind of stays in the English literature camp. With English language, what we're actually doing is universities refer to it as linguistics, and linguistics is the scientific study of a language, and the language that we're interested in is obviously English. So what does that mean, the scientific study of a language? What we will be doing is analysing text, so there will be some reading involved, that's the nature of study, but the reading will be kind of extracts that I will give you from a range of fictional sources, and I will be asking you to deconstruct them using your language knowledge. What is this language knowledge? Language knowledge is divided into two main areas, and then we've got subdivisions. The two main areas are the language levels and the language topics. So let's talk about the language levels first of all, because that's where you're going to start in September. And what you could be doing whilst you're waiting to start in September and you are at home is maybe start exploring some of these language levels for yourself. The language levels that we're going to be dealing with is, we begin in September with pragmatics. And pragmatics basically just looks at how human beings use language and what language means on the surface level and what the possible implied meanings might be of what people say and what they write. So we're going to be engaged in deconstructing, analysing speech and the written word. So pragmatics, just exploration of how context, where you are, who you are, subject matter, what you're talking about, how that makes you use the words that you use, the sentences that you use, how you construct those words and sentences. So pragmatics is kind of where we begin, and it will give you the big picture of language study. Then we start to dive a little bit more deeply into the language levels, and the next language level that we study is phonology. And phonology basically is the sounds of language. And here we start to explore why we've got one language but so many different accents and so many different dialects. So there are words that people might use down in the Midlands, in Nottingham, in Leicester, in Birmingham, and then up in the north, in Newcastle, in Sunderland, in Hartlepool. So where do those words come from? How do we get them? So accents and dialects feature quite heavily in the study of phonology, and why perhaps as people we might prefer one accent over another. Where does that attitude come from? Then we start to dig even more deeply and we start to look at words and their meaning. So remember, with pragmatics, that's kind of full circle, and pragmatics is everything linked together. Lexis is just the study of the individual words that we use. So our English language is made up of the lexicon. The lexicon, scholars kind of debate this. Some scholars say that there are 200,000 words in the English language. Some scholars say there are 500,000 words in the English language. Why have we got such a big difference? That's something that we can explore in class, and I will discuss with you in class as to why somebody says 200,000 and another scholar says 200,000. Once we've looked at our lexicon, our vocabulary, our words, we then go into semantics. Now, semantics overlaps full sentences and individual words. So very, very quickly, our key focus is when we've got a single word, what are the semantics that link to that word? So what does that word mean? And it's got what we call a denotation, and then it may have a variety, multiplicity of connotations. So when you look up a word in a dictionary, the first entry will give you its denotation, and the follow-up entries may give you the other associated semantics, the other associated words, the other associated meanings with that particular word. So you've got the connotations as well. So lexical choices and what those lexemes, those words mean. Then we move on to discourse, and discourse is the study, primarily 70% of what we'll study in discourse will be focused on speech, actual speech that will be presented to us in transcript form, and then we will look at the way that the speakers are using language in order to communicate with their listeners. So it might be a two-way conversation, it might be a single person, such as myself at this very moment, giving a presentation to a wider audience. That audience may be face-to-face, it may be a virtual audience somewhere way out in the ether. But discourse allows us to look at, again, those language choices. So how does the speaker construct their language in order to make sense, in order to be understood by the listeners? The other part of discourse actually links in with the most straightforward of topics, which is graphology. And graphology and discourse together, they will help you to deconstruct written text. So in terms of a written text, what we're looking at is the beginning, middle and end of a piece of writing. How does the discourse flow in that written document? How does the writer begin the document? And then graphology is a good partner to the written discourse deconstruction, because the graphological elements help us to deconstruct, help us to explore why has the writer used that particular title? Does the writer use subheadings in the text? If not, why not? What are the paragraphs like? Are they long and dense? Are they short and snappy? What's the white space like around the written text? Is there any use of images? What's the textual and image cohesion like? Does the image actually support the written text? Does it get in the way? Does it confuse? So those sorts of explorations with a piece of data. The biggest language level that you will study is grammar. We spent about 3 weeks studying grammar. It is very, very important because it gets quite a lot of the marks when we are being assessed for our language exam. So the grammatical deconstruction, it links in with some of the work that we will have done on Lexis. But what we start to do with grammar is we look at the words and we actually look at the functions. So what job is a word doing in the sentences that we use? So is that word a verb, an adjective, a noun? And the beauty of English language is that you may get a single word that, depending on where it appears in the sentence, it may be a verb, it could be an adjective, it could be a noun. So grammar will help you to understand the sequence of words within sentences, and then what that word or the job that that word is doing. So what that word is actually doing in the construction of the sentence. When we put the sequence of words together, we get full sentences. So we also look at how those sentences are constructed. So we've got 4 types of sentences. We've got a minor sentence, we've got a simple sentence, we've got a compound sentence, and we have got a complex sentence. And a complex sentence, English language will teach you, isn't a sentence that is just very, very long, but it uses a particular grammatical construction to make it a complex sentence. And that's what you'll learn in English language. You will be able to look at a sentence and you will be able to say it's using that particular word, and therefore that sentence is a complex sentence, or that sentence is a compound sentence. So those are your language levels, and we will study those from about September to October half term. Once we've got the language levels in place, we start revising them, we start to own them, to understand them, so that when I give you a text and I say, go ahead now, deconstruct it, you can pull it apart and you can explain to me what the pragmatics of the text are, what the phonological features of the text are, what lexical choices and the meanings of those lexical choices within the text are, how the text is structured, or how the discourse flows if it happens to be speech, if it's a transcript that I've given you to analyse, and when you get to the grammatical component, the grammatical choices that the writer has made to put that text together, or even to structure their sentences when they speak to other people in that way. After the language levels, again, I'll be honest, they are a bit dry, but we need to get through them in order to be able to do the job that we need to do to understand how texts are composed. The fun bit then starts, and there are the topics, the language topics that I mentioned earlier. There are 5 language topics that we will study. In the first year, we begin with the gender topic. Students find that very, very engaging. It's a popular topic, and gender, almost self-explanatory in terms of language. How do men and women use language? How do male-female writers use language to construct their written text? And with the written text, how are gender representations evident in the text? So are writers, are speakers reinforcing gender stereotypes, or are they challenging those gender stereotypes? The second topic that you'll study in the first year is the power topic, and we look at different ways in which people use language to assert themselves. So, how am I using language and how am I using my power as a teacher to perhaps influence you to consider taking English language and to persuade you to consider that English language is a subject that's well worth taking. So we've got the power topic, language and power, again, a topic that students really enjoy. Then we've got something that is very, very relevant to modern audiences, and that's technology. What's happening with technology, and how is technology changing our language? How is it making language? Some scholars argue that technology is destroying language, that people who communicate through technology, through social media, they don't know how to write sentences, they don't know how to spell. Other scholars, again, the debate, other scholars argue, that's not the case. Technology actually is benefiting language. It is making language evolve. It is making language be sharper and even better, and it's bringing more people together. So technology is an enabler of language. It's not destroying language. Then you've got, those are the 3 topics that we studied in the first year. Then in the second year, we move on to language acquisition topic. And that basically explores from 0 up to the age of 7, how children learn the language. So how do they become amazingly proficient language users by the age of 5, and then between 5 and 7, they've almost acquired adult-like speech patterns that they will then continue to use for the rest of their lives. So the language acquisition, future kind of teachers, social workers, language therapists, they love that topic when they do English language with me, because they find that topic really fits in with their future career aspirations as well. Then we've got, for the historians amongst you, and I would have to argue my favourite topic, is the language change topic. And we look at, in a real big gallop, but we do look at language over the last 2,000 years. So we look at the old Anglo-Saxon, the old English language, and we bring it right up to 2020. So the language change topic is the biggest topic that we will study, you can imagine, if we've got over 2,000 years of language to explore. Don't panic though, you're not going to be tested on your knowledge of 2,000 years of English language. That's something that you can explore when you do linguistics or English language degrees at university. For A-level, whilst we have a gallop through history, what we'll really focus on is the 1600s. And from the 1600s right up to 2020, what you'll be expected to do with the language change topic is, again, textual deconstruction. So the exam board tell us that they won't give us a text older than the 1600s. So the oldest text that they can possibly ask us to deconstruct for its language choices, its language use, will be from the 1600s and then right up to possibly, as I keep saying, 2020. And you'll be given two texts, an old text from somewhere in the past, 16, 17, 1800s, and a modern text, 1900s, 2000s onwards. And you'll be asked to kind of compare and contrast those. You'll be asked to look at how language has changed between the old text and the newer text. So I'm talking about exam structure there. For the exam, you will have two exams, and you will be given what you're going to be doing in class and practicing in class. But under exam conditions, you will have text that the exam board will give you, and they will say, okay, use your language levels and tell me how language is being used in that particular text. Use your language topic knowledge and tell me how, if it's an acquisition focus, how children are displaying their expertise in the use of and the acquisition of language. You've already heard me talk about the language change topics. So that is it. Language is a deconstruction and analysis of text using language levels and the 5 language topics. So that's what the next couple of years will be spent on. There is a coursework component which allows you to explore a particular language area that you want to deconstruct, that you want to look at. Okay, if there aren't any questions, don't worry. You can send questions in later via our Facebook page, Twitter page, Instagram page. You can even use traditional email and email Bede inquiries and just say, can you pass this question on to the English teacher, and I will answer them for you. What you can be doing in the meantime, on our website, there are some activity booklets that you can access for English language, and you can perhaps work your way through those activities. I know some of you have accessed them already. You've been emailing me and asking questions, which is fantastic. Keep that up. But if you haven't got any questions... We
do have one question, if I can just read it out to you.
Yes, sure.
The question is from Leah. Is English language a good subject to take if she'd like to have a career in the field of human rights law? She's thinking about the skills of English language. How will that apply to human rights law?
Right, okay, thank you, Leah. Brilliant question. Absolutely. English, whether it's language or literature, future lawyers do have a decision to make. They do tend to choose. I've got a few in my second year at the moment that are going into the law. The language investigation is based on the law, but it is a brilliant, what university admissions tutors call a facilitating subject. So you can study English not because you want to become an English teacher, or you might be thinking about English and thinking, well, what job can I get with it? English is a subject that facilitates so many different careers, and you can just about go into any career, because what do admissions tutors at universities want? What do employers want? They want people who can read text, understand text, deconstruct text, analyse them for what they mean. They want future employees and university students that can speak clearly, can articulate their ideas, and also write in a similar manner, so they can write clearly and present their ideas in a logical way, which is what English will teach you. With regards to law, you've got that deconstruction. So going back to one of my second year students, her particular investigation this year, she has recorded 2 transcripts from Judge Rinder and Judge Judy, and she's looking at the legal language, and she's focused on gender and power and legal use of language in the way that those 2 judges deal with the plaintiffs, the people that they are resolving issues for. Do your research, Leah. Just double check which university you want to study law at, because some universities prefer English language, or they're not bothered, to be honest, whether you do English language or literature. Some have to be straight with you and inform you. Some traditional universities, they do prefer students who want to go into the legal field to study English literature. But the best thing that you can do whilst you're waiting to make your choices is go onto the university websites that you want to study at in a couple of years' time, and just check out their entry requirements and message them as well. And just, I'm thinking of doing an English subject at college. I want to do law at university, and as part of my career, which English would be best for me. I love both of them, and I would suggest that you do the one that you enjoy studying the most, and then if it happens to be career related, the one that will help you to get to the university that you want to get to. Right, bye everybody, have a fantastic day and the rest of the preview week. Good luck with your GCSEs, and I will see you face to face in September. Bye.